You are listening to Directions from a Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. I am your host, Chanel Scott. I'm a psychic medium and energy healer who has been supporting those on a spiritual journey for over a decade. I'm your tour guide into the world of the unknown, showing you that the magic of the universe is at your fingertips. I believe spirituality is simple and fun, and this podcast will make it easily accessible, giving you the real talk on all things divine and spiritual, helping you to step into the flow, manifesting your dreams because we all deserve to be living our best life. Are you ready for an adventure? Welcome to the Directions from Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. I am so excited to introduce our guest today. We have High Vibe Heather with us. She is an energetic coach and healer. And today we're going to chat about human design, which is something that I don't know a lot about, and I'm excited to explore with you today, Heather. Would you like to just give a little introduction of yourself and say hello?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today, Chanel. I really appreciate being here. And as you said, I am an energetic coach and healer. I specialize in human design. I also do Reiki and a modality called emotion code and some sound healing. So that those are the tools that I like to work with in my practice. And yeah, human design really is the basis for it all. And I feel like it is a form of energy healing in and of itself because it teaches you how your own unique energetic system wants to work.
It's so fascinating to hear about it, and this piece of like discovering who you are. Not that we don't kind of already know, but I think it just unravels and unwraps so many like interesting things and brings awareness to so many parts of ourselves. So let's can you tell me, like, how did you get interested into human design, and like what did you do to kind of like dive into it?
Yeah, so I was first introduced to it back in 2017. I was at a business retreat and another participant used it in his practice. He was a coach to high level CEOs, and it was like his little secret tool that he used to help them like really step up their game.
Yeah.
And up until that point, I'd never heard of it. And so he just asked me for my birth information, and I was like, okay, weird. What do you need that for? And then he pulled up my chart, and I was like, okay, what is that? And then he just made one comment, which really hit me because at that time, it was the complete opposite of how I saw myself.
Interesting.
He said, "Oh, you're really powerful." And I was like, "What? Are you on crack? Because I do not feel powerful. I feel like so disempowered. I feel so lost and disconnected from my life. I have no idea where I'm going, what I'm doing. I'm just following somebody else's path, it felt like." So that was enough to really intrigue me. And I went home from that retreat and I was like, what is this human design stuff? And I bought all these books and I just read them and studied it. And I was just, the further I got, the more I wanted to know. And I just kept going down that rabbit trail. And after a few years of just like studying it on my own, I got a pretty decent understanding of it, but I just couldn't really piece it all together. It seemed like, oh, there's this part that's about your centers, and then there's this part that's about your channels, and then like there's this other part that's about these gates, and like, what does it all mean? And so learning then through getting a reading myself from the author of these books I'd been studying
Wow.
was like life changing. I was like, oh my
Oh,
God, now it makes sense. So at the he was, because I'm a manifesting generator, he was like, you got to follow your gut response. What lights you up? What's exciting to you? By the end of my reading, I said to him, this lights me up and I want to learn more. Like, this is what I want to do. When do you start training again? And he was like, actually, we're starting next month. And he sent me a link. I started the training under him. Um, I did that for about 2 years. I did the first level, and then I moved into the advanced practitioner level, and I just really immersed myself in it and was like, this is it. This is what I really love doing. I love learning about, and it's so fascinating, all the information you learn from it.
Wow. So for people that don't know a lot about human design, can you tell us two things? Can you tell us what information do they need to be able to figure out their human design? You mentioned birth date, but is it like down to birth time and the minute? And then can you tell us a little bit about like the beginnings or like where human design was created from?
Yeah. So in order to pull up your charts, so it's called a body graph,
Okay.
it's your energetic blueprint,
Love
and
it.
you need your birth date, time, and location. And as close to the minute as possible.
Okay.
You can pull up a chart that's like based on a range if you don't know the
Okay.
exact time. So it will shift every 2 to 4 hours. Um, and the biggest thing that shifts is your profile because there's all these different components to your design.
Yes.
But the more discrepancy in time, the opportunity for your actual energy type to change as well.
Right.
So if you can get as close as possible, and the if you don't have access to your birth certificate, I always tell people to order the long form from the county that they were born in.
Okay. And it has most of that information on it.
Yeah, the short
Okay.
form is not going to tell you the time, but the long form will. So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah.
That is a really good tip because I have heard that from people, even just trying to get astrological charts, same thing. So, where did human design start from? Like, where is the origins of human design?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting story. So there was this Canadian advertising executive. I want to say his name was Robert Krakow, and he moved to the island of Ibiza in Spain.
Okay.
I don't really know the whole background of why he moved, but he did, and
Okay.
he found himself at some point channeling all of this information. And I guess he was channeling for a full week straight, where he was just transcribing everything that was pouring through him. And at the end of this week, he was pretty well fried. And so he like went out into the forest, kind of felt like he lost his mind. And which I can imagine, like
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a lot of information to be coming through somebody. And I guess he came back, um, tried to destroy it all because he was
Oh,
just like, this is too much, or the world isn't ready, or I can't make sense of it. I'm not really sure what
yeah.
was going through his mind. But then after a while, he was like, actually, no, this is really important. And so then he worked to write down everything he could remember again and then started being like a disciple, I guess, where he just started sharing this with people. And
Wow.
over time, I want to say this was 1987,
Okay.
it just caught on. You know, he shared it with more and more people who shared it with more and more people, and it just resonated. And I've also heard more recently that similar systems have come through other people in other parts of the world.
Interesting.
And it just goes to show that, like, when information wants to come through, it's going to come through, and it doesn't matter who or when or, what. It will just pour through, and whoever is open to receiving it will be like they're tuned into that radio station. And so
Well, yeah.
I'm not familiar with what these other like systems might be called, but in talking to other people, like I'm like, that sounds a lot like human design. What? Somebody from Africa was talking. It's like, oh, okay, interesting.
But
So
I think that happens in the spiritual world, and it's the way that we kind of validate, crossovers, right? Is this piece of like, we'll get, you'll channel something and you'll share it. And then the next thing you know, somebody else kind of channeled something that's similar, or, filled in some of the gaps that you were like, oh, something's missing. And that person's like, oh, I got this. And you hear it and you're like, oh, that goes together. And then you go back and share again, and there's more information. So that is wild, like a wild story. And that's crazy. And I can't imagine like that big of a download. Like that's huge.
Yeah.
And when you look at human design, like the reason I was so intrigued to find out more, because I have read books and I feel like I barely touched the surface on like how much you can learn. So what do you use it for in your practice? Like how do you share it with your clients to help them on their healing journey?
Yeah. So I really love to do one-on-one readings where I, pull somebody's chart and I interpret it for them. I share it with them what it says. And the biggest thing people walk away with is a sense of validation of like
Mm,
you said in the beginning, they already know. They already know who they are. But hearing this confirmation that this is actually how you were created to be, this is your design, and that we are all so unique and so different, it gives people this level of permission to fully live into their lives in the way that feels right to them. And the point of it is to help us to overcome the societal conditioning, the homogenization, as
mm,
he then took on the name Ra Uruhu.
okay.
That's his spiritual name. Um, but yeah, his whole premise behind teaching it was to help us to overcome the homogenization of society that we'd fallen into, especially since the Industrial Revolution. When
Yep.
we were turned into these people that were designed to be productive, and whole systems were created for the collective around like, no, this is how you need to live in society in order to be a productive member of it. And that's how we've basically been living for the last almost 200 years now. And it's so deeply ingrained in us. And so it's, I guess, a remembering for us to like go back to being individuals, living into our own individuality. And I believe that as a species, as a human race, we are continuing to evolve, and that this is some key information that we need in order to move through that evolution. And if we, this can really get into this whole topic of like the current system, the
Oh
current
yeah.
climate of the world, and how the patriarchy has really disconnected us from being individuals. And
I so agree with you. This, I know we always hesitate to have these conversations, right? But I think it's so powerful. Like, I can see why human design has gotten so big over the last 5 or 10 years.
yeah,
This piece of shifting away from the mechanical way of being and these societal norms, like you said, like I love the word homogenous. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like that's so exactly what it is. And we've moved into, not recently, but we are in this patriarchal society where fear and control, and this is the way you have to live in this world to be able to be a productive, member of society. And it's like, who decided that?
yeah,
Who decided what normal was? Normal's just the cycle on the wash machine. That's it. Like we get stuck into these wheels and these cogs, and so it's beautiful that this modality, like the purpose of it is to remind us as to how unique and beautiful we are.
yeah.
That is so incredible. I love it so much.
It's actually quite revolutionary. It's this system that's teaching us how to break free from these constraints, because there are so many people, as we can see, like increases in mental health
Yes.
struggles and drug addiction, and just all of these ways that our own systems, our own bodies are revolting against how we are told to be.
Yes.
We're so deeply unsatisfied, dissatisfied, discontented with life.
Yeah.
And to learn that, oh, I'm not actually meant to do this formula that was set out in front of me. And if I just ignore that and do what my soul is asking me to do and give myself permission to live into that, then I can actually find that sense of fulfillment that so many people are searching for.
I love that. I love that you used the word permission. Again, I think that's a real societal thing that we need permission. But it's interesting that when we go to that place of permission, it's like this weight gets lifted off of our shoulders and we kind of go, oh, this is who I am. And I am allowed to live this way. I'm allowed to be this person. I'm allowed to like function in this capacity. What do you find is like the big ahas for people? Like, is there a certain part of the design, the blueprint, that people kind of tend to have the most like, oh, about?
Yeah, I would say the most fundamental aspect is your energy type. So, human design can really get down into the nitty gritty, even to around like the environments you are in and the food that you eat and
Oh,
this,
wow.
your dreams and all of that. So it's fun to explore all of that, and it can, help you really refine your life. But the three main areas are your energy type and strategy, your authority, and your profile. And if really the only thing you ever learned was your energy type and your strategy, that would be enough to like set you on your path.
Okay.
So I would say people have the most aha moments when they learn that, okay, so for example, you're a projector. So projectors make up about 20% of the population.
Okay.
70% of the population have sacral energy. So they're either generators or manifesting generators, meaning that those are the people that are here to work.
Yeah.
And so people who do not have that sacral energy are deeply conditioned to believe that they are meant to operate and function in the same way at the same level when they are not built to do that.
Okay.
And so they end up like feeling immense amounts of guilt and shame, feeling lazy, feeling like they're not like contributing to the level that they're meant to. They overwork themselves, they get burned out. And when they finally learn, like, oh, I'm not even supposed to. Like, that's not my capacity naturally. That's not how I was made to be. Oh my God, it changes their lives. And
That
then
would be huge to
we can,
understand.
yeah,
Huge.
step back and see, like, oh, so it's okay for me to rest. I'm resting is productive. And it changes how they function in their everyday life. So that's probably the largest thing. And then for generators and manifesting generators, yes, we are designed to work and we have the capacity to work, but so many of us are put into roles or take on roles that really aren't a good fit for us. And so
Right.
we end up feeling miserable doing this work. And instead of having this sustaining energy, we're just feeling drained all the time. And to learn that, oh, I'm meant to be doing work, but work that I actually enjoy, work that's exciting to me to do. And when I do that kind of work, then it's like I'm filling my tank back up in order to like go and drain it. Maybe drain is the wrong word. In order to spend that energy on something that pays me back, that gives me that sense of fulfillment. And
Right.
that's really what the human spirit, I feel like, is here to do, is to like experience fulfillment in your own unique way, whatever that means to you.
Absolutely. More joy, more love. Absolutely. That's the way it should be. I love that. So is there just three main types then of the energies?
There are five. So,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So the other two are the manifester, which is about 10% of the population,
Yep.
and then the reflector, which is less than 1%.
Wow.
So the reflectors are really rare, and their role, what makes them so unique is when you look at a body graph, you're going to see these different colored shapes. And
Yep.
these shapes represent the chakra system. So these are your
Okay.
energy centers. Most people are going to have, a different variety of energy centers that are colored in.
Okay.
When you look at the chart of a reflector, it's completely white. There are no centers colored in, meaning
Wow.
they are not generating any of their own energy on a consistent basis.
Interesting.
So they are pure reflections of the environments that they are in.
Wow.
Yeah. So their role is to, I like to call it quality control.
I love it.
They're here to show us like what's not working in society.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So they're meant to, it's interesting. There's this whole, the word hierarchy, I kind of have I don't think it best describes it, but I don't know how else to say it.
Sure.
But you see reflectors would be at the top. They're the most rare.
Yep.
So they're, or maybe I should say they're in the center.
There you go. I like that.
They're in the center. There's no like top to bottom. They're in the center, and they're reflecting what's not working.
Yep.
Then we have the manifestors. The manifestors are the initiators. They're the ones who are getting these ideas, these inspirations around like the direction that we are heading and what needs to be created in order to get us there.
Okay.
So they start projects off, and they're like these idea people that are always like, I'm just going to start this thing. I don't really know, how it's going to end, but they don't have the sustaining energy to see something all the way through. And so
Right.
then we have projectors come in, and projectors are the managers, they are the overseers. They are the ones that say, okay, you're really good at this role, and you should do this, because their whole thing is about efficiency. So then we
Mm.
have the generators and manifesting generators, and they're here to actually then do the work to see it through.
Okay.
And so if we were to actually sort society in that way, according to your energy type, then people would feel that they were playing the role that they were here to actually play. There wouldn't
Yeah.
be this sense of competition. It'd be like, no, this is what I'm here to do.
I almost want to use that word purpose.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So and it's really interesting because there are 64 different archetypes,
Okay.
and we need them all.
Right.
We need everybody to play into what their unique archetype is, what their unique design is. And when people aren't playing into that, then we have this gap. Like
Okay.
nobody's filling this role.
Right.
And when you are doing the things that you feel most aligned with, you're living into your role, you're providing that function in society that is needed.
Oh,
And then you're taking away whatever competition there is to want to everybody like be in this one certain position because they feel like that's the most lucrative or whatever, so it's just this way of functioning in harmony.
It's so interesting because this brings up a memory for me of learning about, and I can't remember if it was coyotes or wolves, but I feel like it was coyotes. And there's this piece of when a pup is born, they're born into a role and they instantly know what they're instantly given this role and they know their role in the pack. And again, there's no competition because this is your purpose. Like this is what you are meant to be. This is your contribution to the pack as a whole. And it creates this, ease in knowing where you're meant to be. And it's funny that the animal kingdom, which not shockingly, right? They have it all figured out and we as humans can't get it all together. So I love that piece of it, that it's such a powerful thing. Like, can you imagine if we didn't have competition? If we just knew that this was our purpose and this is what we were meant to do, and how, fulfilling that would be, and how much drive that would give us to do the thing that we are meant to do.
Yeah.
So you mentioned strategy, I think was the other piece to it. So what's strategy within the human design blueprint?
Yeah. So each energy type has a specific strategy. And this is basically the way that one of the ways that your intuition is speaking to you to let you know what opportunities are correct for you and which ones you just let pass by.
Okay.
Especially for like generators and manifesting generators, because they are designed to respond to life. That is their strategy.
Yeah.
That sacral center that makes them that type, having that center defined, is like a magnet that's consistently pulling opportunities in for them. And
Wow.
so it's just like a matter of knowing, like, well, which ones do I go with? And the sacral center then has a mechanical way of responding to let you know. And um, it's based on like the capacity of energy that you have available to you in any given moment. So it could change depending on the day or the time, the response that
Oh,
you get.
okay.
So
Wow.
it's very interesting. It's so the strategy then for generators and manifesting generators is to tune into that response. Am I getting an affirmative response that says yes, move forward, or a negative response that says no, let that go? And it's about living in this sense of trust that my body is in tune with the bigger picture, with universal consciousness,
Hmm.
and knowing what is going to continue me down my path and what is, going to stand in the way of it. And of course, we all have free will. We can
Of course.
choose to ignore that, and we can choose to live from our minds and overthink things and try to be logical and strategic, but the body knows. And
It
so
does.
when we don't follow that strategy, then we end up in these really dissatisfying situations. And so there's these feeling themes that go along with every strategy.
Okay. Okay.
So for the generator, manifesting generator, it's the feeling theme of satisfaction, of like,
Which makes sense.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm satisfied. I put in a good day's work doing something that I really love doing, and I feel satisfied. And then the other feeling theme that lets you know you're off track is the feeling of frustration,
Uh,
because you're just feeling like I'm doing this stuff, but it's not getting me where I want to go. I'm
yep.
not feeling that feeling of satisfaction, so that's for those two types. Now for the projector, the strategy is going to be to um it's kind of different based on okay, just give me one moment here.
Okay.
Think into this for a second here.
I'm not surprised. There seems like there's so much
There's
within a
so much.
profile. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for the projector, the strategy is to wait to be invited, to be
Oh,
acknowledged and recognized for what your particular gifts are.
okay.
And the purpose behind that is because projectors have this ability to like see deeply into situations, into people. They have this aura that's like absorbing the information around them.
Okay.
And so because of that, they can see who would work best in whatever role and do it in the most efficient and effective way. They don't have sacral energy to back them up. And so they have to work in quick spurts and then
Okay.
rest. Like that's correct for them. So when they follow that strategy of waiting to be recognized and invited into a role, they know that whatever they put their efforts into, they're going to be acknowledged. They're going to feel that feeling of success, which is their signature feeling theme of
Okay.
like, yes, I've stepped into this thing that isn't right for me. And I feel like a sense of success in my contributions versus the feeling theme of bitterness.
Ooh.
And
Yep.
bitterness is the feeling of like, I just put all of my effort into this and now I'm being completely passed up. It's like I'm invisible. Nobody acknowledged that I even was here. You know, that feeling of not being recognized, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really designed to protect their energy
Yeah.
because they don't have any energy to waste. So
This
that
is
yeah, for manifestors, if you want me to go into the
yeah,
the strategies,
this
okay.
is so interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
keep
so
going.
for manifestors, because they are here to initiate, their strategy is to inform because whatever actions they take is going to have an impact on other people.
Okay.
Here to make an impact. They're here to take us into the future. And that involves change. And people aren't always willing to change. We like to be comfortable. We like um, to know what's happening. And initiators are, sorry, I'm getting all my words mixed up here. Manifestors are initiators. So
Yeah.
they're here to shake things up. They're here to change things. And so by informing, what they're doing is they're creating like an energetic kind of agreement with the people
Okay.
around them that says, I don't need your permission to go ahead with this action. I just need to let you know that it's going to have an impact on you. And so you can either, I like to say it as you can either get on board or get out of the way.
Yep. I like it. I like it. Wow.
Yeah, so for manifestors, the feeling themes then are peace,
Yep.
because they have the people around them backing them up in whatever actions that they're moving forward with, or anger. And anger because
Makes
they
sense.
feel blocked, because especially as children, manifestors, they go through this, naturally, they children are always in touch with their design.
Not surprising, but yes.
So they have this whole experience of like initiating things and then being told constantly, stop it, what are you doing, don't do that, no.
Right.
So this feeling of anger builds up in them. So that is those are their feeling themes, to let them know either like I moved into this in the correct way
Yep.
by informing people, or I moved into this in a way where I didn't let people know and now they're standing in my way trying to block my progress.
Right. This
Yeah.
is just so fascinating. I really am understanding what you were saying about like having permission to be a certain way, to be able to understand how we're supposed to function and move for ourselves. Like everything you have said, I'm just like, okay, I get it. And I know that this is just like the surface, like the surface of the surface of the surface. Like it's so not even getting deep into it at all. And it's just it's so fascinating to hear the way that we move and how that fits. It's just I can see how even just knowing that can give somebody so much like validation in who they are and what they've experienced in their lifetime.
Yeah, really deep insights.
Yeah. It's it's crazy. I love this. What else do you want to share with us about human design? Is there something else that's like important for people to understand or yeah, I don't even know where to go from here. My mind is just so blown at the moment.
So there are the reflectors, that 1%.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. And so their strategy as a reflector is to, they are completely different. So the rest of us, we're like solar beings. We live according to the energy of the sun, whereas reflectors are lunar beings. They live according
Okay.
to the energy, the movements of the moon.
Interesting.
So they, their strategy is to wait a 30-day lunar cycle before making major decisions. And when I say major decisions, I'm talking about like, okay, a major purchase like a home, a car, something
Part.
like that,
Okay.
a big investment,
Yeah.
a relationship, a move, a career, like things that are going to change the
Big.
trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
So by waiting that 30 days, what they're doing is they're allowing, because they don't have any definition in their chart. They don't have any energy that they're generating on their own from their energy centers, from their chakra system.
Yeah.
They are, as the planets like are transiting through the sky, they're getting different activations throughout the month. And each
Okay.
of these activations is giving them a different perspective. And they're bringing in information slowly over the course of the month that's helping them come to a place of knowing.
Right.
Throughout this time, it's not like they're just sitting around doing nothing, although it does require a great deal of patience. They're also doing their own research. They're like talking to people, they're surveying, they're looking things up, they're just looking at like, okay, what would this be like if I were to do this? What would it be like if I were to do that? And then by the end of that 30-day cycle, after they've had all the positions of the planets transit, they've seen things from all these different perspectives, they've gathered all this information, they just come to a place of knowing either like this is the direction I move in or it's not.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so their feeling themes are surprise and disappointment.
It that makes sense. Yep.
And surprise, a lot of times it comes down to like, because they're meant to be this quality control, this like center of society where they're telling us what's working and what's not. It's like, oh, people actually listened to me. People
Mm,
actually like took
yeah.
in my feedback. And then disappointment, around like they didn't,
Yeah.
and every day for them is they're meant to wake up and experience life from this completely new perspective. And life is meant to be full of like surprise. So, the other parts of design that I think are deeply important, um, well, one in particular is authority. And this is your unique decision making process. And
Okay.
everybody has a different one. We're not all meant to make decisions in the same way.
Which makes total sense. Yeah.
But we have so much pressure to be like, no, that you didn't do it right. You, and then we're just like, oh my God, how do I choose? And so many people then outsource their decision making. They
Mm,
public
yeah.
opinion polls, they make a post on social media. I don't know what to do. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
And they just allow everybody else to direct their
Oh,
lives. But your body knows. Your body knows.
Your body knows everything.
And so the mind is considered the passenger
Okay.
from, the perspective of the system, whereas the body is the vehicle.
Right.
And the body is guiding you because it is in tune with the universe and what else is happening on a larger scale. So there are 7 different authorities, and by following what your unique decision making process is, then you can be assured that, like, okay, I can trust myself. I can move forward with this knowing that it's going to keep me in line with where I actually want to be going. And it takes the guesswork out of like living life. So,
It's so incredibly fascinating. It reminds me, my middle child has a learning disability. And for me as a parent, I started to recognize it in JK, like right away in junior kindergarten. I was like, something's not right. Like, something's not landing. What is it? And it just kind of progressed. And when I got to teachers and learning support teachers who were like, we think we know what's going on, it was again like that, where somebody said, he doesn't learn this way. This is the block that he's having, and this is how we move around that, and this is how we uniquely teach him to learn. And then getting that psychoed assessment, and it's totally different because it's human design, a psychoed, but it just has this same feeling. There was such relief in knowing something that was missing, to have those pieces of like knowing your decision making style and being able to feed your decisions through that is so empowering versus, like you said, we often reach outward and outsource things. But the more we know about ourselves, the more we can, move from a place that feels good. And the body is so intelligent. It does have so much to share, but we're also societally taught not to be present in our bodies, to be very cautious and aware of what society thinks and society feels. And so what society wants versus just going back to our own bodies and our own intuition and being able to access that. And this seems like this modality gives such a permission to be like, this is how you function. Does that feel right to you? And when you feel into it, you're like, oh my God, like this is what I've been waiting for somebody to tell me. When those teachers said to me, this is the problem, I was like, hallelujah, like, thank you. Like, I needed this information because I was beating my head against the wall, trying to like support my child in a way that wasn't helpful. So, in ourselves, and I can see how this modality could help you in so many realms of your life. Not just like you said, the person you met was working with high level CEOs. Like, I can see how it can touch so many aspects of who we are and what we do, and how this information can be so transformative.
yeah, it's basically a roadmap for how you are designed to move through life with the most ease.
Well, and isn't that what it's about? Finding the path of least resistance, finding the flow, finding the movement that just gives you, so much fulfillment and joy, and instead of fighting against everything.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe like people who are more intuitive and like connected to those skills, they're already just like living into it and don't
Yeah,
necessarily need a system to teach them.
right.
But this is for the rest of humanity who is deeply conditioned and who is trying to live according to this cookie cutter mold,
Yeah,
helping them to break free from that and change the paradigm that we are living from and understanding life from. And again, giving permission to do things in your unique intuitive way. So I feel like it's a great bridge to reconnect people to their intuition,
Yeah.
because everybody is intuitive. Everybody has that
Agreed.
capacity.
Yes.
It's a matter of learning how to hear it again.
Yeah. I think too, it would be really validating for those that are more in tune, like validating, like, this is the thing that I do well
Yeah.
and that works. So, how do you use human design with your other modalities?
Yeah. So that's been really fun to experiment with. I've done a lot of like one-on-one coaching work where I'll work with somebody for like 12 weeks, 3-month container. And
Yeah.
we really look at their human design, but then also like, okay, we're seeing this block come up. You're struggling in this one particular area of life, and we'll do some emotional clearing around that.
Beautiful.
And then we'll see like, okay, this is how you're relating to the people in your life, and maybe you need to create some boundaries. And looking at your human design will show you more a nuanced way of where your particular proclivities are,
Yeah.
where you're more prone to conditioning,
Yeah.
because those white centers, the places where we're not generating energy, we are taking in the energy of our environments. We're reflecting it back. We're also amplifying it. So
Oh,
recognizing that, like, oh, I am just like a sponge in this particular area of my life. And I feel like I have to do this thing, I feel like I have to do things a certain way because that's how I was taught. But really, there is no one way for me to experience this. There's no one way for me to respond to this. I can feel into the needs of that particular situation and that moment
mhm.
and respond in whatever way feels most appropriate to me. So it's just like this level of freedom where we're unlearning what we've been taught,
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to be more intuitive.
Oh, it's so great. I feel like we have barely dived in, but I think the information you shared today is so powerful. I totally have the urge to go look up all my children's human design.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
My
And
husband, I'm like,
I highly recommend. I wish that, people left the hospital with
with
their
him. Oh,
kids' human design charts so that they could parent
yeah.
to that individual. Because if your kids have different designs, they're going to have different motivations. They're going to have different ways of experiencing life. And when you can see them at their level and meet them there, you're going to have such an easier journey with them, and you're going to have this understanding. They're going to feel seen in this really unique way that helps them to build that self-trust and really nurtures relationship.
Oh, yeah. Can we give every parent? I know. I'm like, okay, when I become a grandma, which is not anytime soon, we're not hurrying that along, but I'm like, oh, I'm totally going to look up my grandchildren's human design.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Wow. Like, my mind is blown today. Thank you for sharing what you've shared with us today. Is there a way for people to connect with you? Because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that want to learn more about their human design. And I think what better way than to get a reading with someone who knows so much about it? So, how can people find you, Heather?
Yeah. So you can go to my website. It's highvibeheather.com. So it's HIGHVIBEHEATHER.com. You can actually get a free chart there. Put in your information. I have a calculator that will then produce your charts. And yeah, you can also book a reading through my site. Follow me on Instagram, same handle at hi.vibe.heather. I also have a podcast, Hi Vibe Heather. podcast. I try to keep things simple. So yeah, that's how you can find me. I would
Beautiful.
love to share your human design with anyone who is interested in learning more.
Yes, I will definitely link everything down in the show notes so people can find you easily. Thank you so much for sharing. I am so excited to learn more about human design now and to dive into my own chart. And like I said, I'm definitely going to look up all my baby's charts. Not that they're so little anymore, but any head start as a parent we can get is just a huge bonus. So thank you again so, so much for sharing your knowledge and your passion for what you do today with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chanel. It was a really a pleasure to get to speak with you today.